No, I went last year, South Lesson's fun, but I,
Okay.
no,
Wait, to the conference or the ed stuff or to?
I went just to the ed stuff last
Okay.
year. Wish I could go, unless I get a free pass, I'm not gonna pay $1,000 for the full festival. It's close to $2,000 actually for the whole week.
Jeez.
I went my freshman year, I volunteered. I think the full access pass is $1,800, and then the music pass is probably close to $1,000.
What?
Yeah.
Oh my god, I had no idea.
I volunteered my freshman year and got a concert for me. I love that, really enjoyed that, but I don't think I would buy a pass. Because I
I don't
love
know.
it.
But isn't there also that there's some like a bunch of influencers too?
Yeah, yeah.
That weekend,
I'll
just like.
look it up, so there was some telling you, whenever it gets $1,000.
I believe it.
Brand is still out there.
I went to rodeo though, so I know that.
You went or you're going?
Going this weekend, I think. I hope.
I had experienced my first rodeo on Sunday.
Did you like it? What did you think?
It was interesting. I liked it. It was like, it reminded me a lot of like the county fair. But, I missed most of the like show where they're actually like hard working.
Yeah.
I just caught the end of like the mutton busting. It cracked me up. Can't believe they do that.
I last went when I was like 6 or 7 and had a great time, but I only like, I can only remember like bits and pieces. So I'm looking forward to going again as a grown adult.
I kind of couldn't believe like every time the kids would like start on top of the sheet and then they would fall to the side, but they can stay
They hold on.
on the side for so long. Like what's going on?
Yeah, but I guess
Did you get like concert tickets or to the rodeo show? Or
Oh, I don't know. I don't think I think probably could do concert tickets, but I don't know if I really enjoy them. Like,
All the days, not all the
we
days.
get tickets, but they just kind of stayed in our season. No one kicked us out
Yeah.
for a while. And like, you know, like a Super Bowl show
Yeah.
because it's in the middle of an NRG stadium.
Always waiting for that call.
Fireworks and stuff.
Yeah.
I haven't heard of the artist though, but it turns out that he's like he's a pretty cool fan. It's just like some kid who's like a like artist.
oh wow.
The crowd is like so into like his little lyrics and stuff like that. And it's just
we'll see.
I'd like to be home by like 5:30. It would be nice, but we'll see if that was gonna happen.
yeah.
Dylan told me there's a press conference. I'm like, oh, great, Daily News. I don't know what that is. It's like at 4:30. I'm like,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
everybody. Chief Payment will be here shortly. How are you doing today? So, we'll be emailing you all a copy of the release. In the meantime, Joe, did you get a copy of the plan? Here's this. How are you, Margaret?
Hi, how are you doing?
Good to see you. Hey, how are you? Hey, Margaret. Thank you so much. How are you doing today?
I'm good.
Hey, Alicia. How are you?
Thanks.
Nice to meet you.
Hello.
How are you doing today?
Good to see you.
How are you doing? You sent me the release, but that's the plan itself, and we'll let
You
go.
got my copy already.
Okay. Take the copy. Hey, how you doing? Good to see you. Copy, copy? There you go. I got everything? Just a moment.
Hey, this is Jason up on Live UG with HISD Presser. You probably already figured that out by now, just in case. All right, thank you, sir. Bye.
Should be less than 30 minutes.
About what? No, I used from, I pulled the numbers from the packet.
Okay.
Yeah,
I just
yeah. That's average, right? That's not like max?
Yes.
Okay, great.
So I just wanted to.
That's exactly the document. Yeah, I pulled it from the document, so it should be.
Hello, Chief Hayman. How are you doing? You're doing well. So,
Right.
Should be on.
Okay.
You won't hear anything.
Hello, hello? But it's on. Okay, we've got a live mic. Great, 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 great. Okay. Some notes today.
You prefer the mic stand or you wanna hold it?
Do I need to hold it if it's down there?
Get the mic stand.
I think that'd be good. Less fiddling. I may have to turn a few pages. Thank you. I appreciate it, y'all. Okay, super, super. All right. We ready? Chief Comms? Ready to go? Okay, great, great. Well, good afternoon. I am Jessica Naiman, Chief Human Resources Officer for Houston Independent School District. I have a huge smile on my face today because there is nothing more pleasurable for a Chief Human Resources Officer than getting to talk about really generous salary enhancements for the majority of our staff here at Houston ISD. If you had the CFO up here, it might not be the same. But for me, this is awesome news. I'm really, really excited to spend some time talking to y'all today. In all seriousness, our human resources and our finance department have been working tremendously hard to see how we can maximize our resources in a very, very strategic manner that's aligned with the superintendent's vision for the district and, of course, in support of Destination 2035. So I wanted to thank y'all for being here and for your interest in this topic. I know numbers can be a little dry, and so it's really important that we add color and context to the great news that we have here today. So as many of you know, we have approximately 27,000 employees in Houston ISD. Someone fact check me, but I believe we are the second largest employer in the Houston area. And today we release our 24-25 compensation plan. The plan outlines the salaries of our team members that they'll receive in the coming school year. And I'm so pleased to say that many of those salaries are significantly higher than our surrounding districts. And we all know there's a teacher shortage out there, so it means a lot to us, of course, to be able to offer competitive salaries, engage in a really aggressive recruitment plan where we have an employee value proposition that includes salaries, but also a lot of other advantages for teachers who want to work at Houston ISD. So I'd like to start off by talking about salaries specifically for our teachers, since we all know they truly have the greatest impact on how our students are doing in school. The average salary, to just kind of ground us, the average salary for a teacher in Texas is $55,616. Our starting salary for teachers is $64,000. So again, across the state of Texas, $55,616, but here at Houston ISD, our starting salary for teachers is $64,000. And in the coming school year, the salary table for teachers at non-NES schools also reflects a $2,500 step increase at each step. So for clarity, these are the salaries for our non-NES schools. As you all know, our non-NES schools do have the lower teacher salaries because we are very strategically allocating resources towards our students most in need at our NES campuses. So I just told you the non-NES salaries, and it just gets better from here. So teachers in our NES schools, meanwhile, will continue to earn some of the highest compensation across the nation. The average salaries for high school NES teachers starts at $82,816. So some of y'all might turn around and apply to be teachers once you hear the rest of this news. So the average salary for a high school NES teacher starts at $82,816. So for all of our positions at NES schools, and keep in mind we have a variety of salaries depending on the role, when we average all those, you can have 0 years of teaching experience, start with Houston ISD, and make that salary. And I know you've heard me say it before, but I'm going to say it again, because when you couple that salary with the number of work days in the year, especially the time off that is typical for a teacher, and you have off 1 week at the fall break, you have off 2 weeks and a couple days at the winter break. We're getting ready to start our spring break next week, so you have another week off there, plus 2 months in the summer. You're making still $82,816 for working that schedule. And then it just goes up from there. So we have $86,000 as, I'm sorry, We have $88,816 for a teacher with 5 years of experience at an NES high school level. So I mentioned we had 82,816, can go all the way up at the high school NES level to 88,816. Same holidays off. And the area of special education, so switching gears and going to the special education teachers. At NES, the teacher who is starting in the field as a special education teacher without any experience, so we call that 0 years of experience, will make at an NES school $86,000. At our non-NES school, we were able to get that minimum up to $80,000. So extremely competitive special education salaries. And then a teacher with 5 years of experience in special education can make $92,000 if they want to come teach at Houston ISD. We are fortunate to have outstanding teachers in Houston ISD. And for those who might be watching and absorbing what our new compensation plan is, knowing what next year looks like, or if there's someone who's working for another district and happens to be watching, if you are an effective teacher or you're one who's willing to come and grow with us, willing to learn teaching in the manner that we're teaching at both NES and non-NES schools, want to get better at your craft, we absolutely want you on our team. And our salaries are part of the way we communicate that. We highly value our teaching staff, and we really emphasize that value by making sure they earn the most competitive salaries across the nation. You can always explore opportunities with Houston ISD, of course, on our website. Most people are familiar with it, but can't help but give the shout out to our website. It's houstonisd.org/careers. So again, houstonisd.org/careers. In addition, I have other really exciting news that does not relate to teachers. And that is, I am so very pleased to share that all hourly staff now in the district will make no less than $15 an hour. So it was really important to us that we recognized, unfortunately, we did have some staff making less than $15 an hour, quickly shored that up, and going forward in the future, none of them will make less than $15 an hour. The compensation plan for next school year demonstrates clearly that HISD is aligning our resources to our priorities by investing in effective educators who will help ensure every student graduates prepared for the year 2035 workplace and the world. Again, strategic alignment with Destination 2035. The plan also helps employees understand what they can expect from the district and what the district expects from our employees. That way, all of our team members can make informed decisions about whether HISD's high-performance culture is the right fit for them. Now, that said, we know that all of our employees, not just our teachers, have an important role to play in student success. The new plan shows that we're not only raising teacher salaries district-wide, but we're incenting excellence across all of our teams. All right. Yes, sir. I'm happy to try and answer some questions.
First and Megan.
Thank you.
I looked through the job descriptions. Are librarians now gone completely from all the schools, and what is the justification for that?
Yes. So as you saw reflected in our compensation plan, we do not have the librarians at the schools moving forward for next year.
At all schools or just NES schools?
Now you're making me nervous by asking. I'm going to get Leela to do a fact check too. Okay, we'll get back to you and clarify.
Because I did not
Yeah.
see the word librarian.
Correct,
anywhere.
correct.
So that means even the schools that hope, the A-plus schools that hope to escape this
Right.
are not.
I mean, and we, as I think people know from headlines, a lot of librarians have been changed to titles like media specialists in a lot of districts, or districts, especially with the state funding, have decided to no longer have librarians. So I think similarly, we took a hard look at our roles and made sure that they were strategically aligned. But I do want to be careful just to be sure that we have that absolutely accurate. We did some phasing out and some reorganizing of some positions. Let me just make sure that we don't have sort of a 1-year period, and we'll get back to you on that.
How soon?
I can probably get that to you by first thing in the morning.
Well,
Yeah.
that's kind of too late.
Oh, what time are you going to print?
Well,
Tonight? Okay, we can get it.
Look into it right after this.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, no, and thank you for asking that. I want to be sure we're crystal clear on that. There's a lot of information in a comp plan, and so we want to be sure it's conveyed accurately. Thank you.
My question is about, this plan isn't final until it's approved by the Board of Managers, correct?
That is correct, and thank you. That's a really critical, important clarification, and that is not unique for Houston ISD. That happens every year with every school district. You tend to start finalizing your employee compensation plan about this month, around February. You start having your staffing allocations based on your student enrollment. Basically, your financial picture starts coming into focus, and you want to start aggressively recruiting with an employee compensation plan that the board has previewed. But in all of your employment contracts that you offer, et cetera, it's boilerplate language across the state. It always states that it's contingent on any funding issues, of course, approved by the board. Our board, I believe, is on track to approve budget June 13th. So, and
Maybe just as a.
yes, sir. Or
as
yes,
one
ma'am.
Point, so if I understand correctly, the board will approve the budget. This is a part of that. The board is not approving this plan specifically. Is that right?
That's correct. So the board is charged with approving the entire budget, and as part of the budget, 80% of most districts' budget, including ours, is the employee compensation plan. People are expensive, but worth it.
Any idea how the district's able to afford these pay raises and salaries, and what does it mean for Houston taxpayers?
Yeah. So I will defer the details on the finances to the CFO. I do know that there has been a lot of time in carefully mapping out the path forward to how this compensation plan will be paid for, not only today, but of course, once you lock in an employee salary, it's a big commitment because those employees have that salary going forward and into the future. There are no current plans with regard to taxpayers and raising taxes that have been discussed. And so I'm no comment on that, but I know our CFO, is more privy to those kind of details, but nothing that I'm aware of.
All right, we'll go to Kateri, then Ms. Margaret.
That was actually the question I was
Yeah.
going to ask about, how it was gonna be funded and how
Yeah.
that was gonna happen. So I'll come back if I have another.
No worries, and I do want to clarify that all of this is within our current budgetary means. In other words, there isn't a separate plan on how to fund this. This was a shifting of resources. You've heard a lot about our efficiency report and how we are able to shift resources to be able to put additional resources towards things like compensation. So by shoring up inefficiencies, we're able just to repurpose current monies that we already have.
All right, Ms. Margaret, then Asher.
I just want to be
Yeah.
real clear on, when you're talking about a number for high school salaries is that an average of all of the one? Because math and English teachers are still paid a lot more than the other ones, is that correct?
That's correct. So because we use the hospital model where we have a different salary depending on the role you're in, which is very unique. That is the first time I'm probably saying that is not common across school districts. We do pay a different salary for the specific role that you're teaching. So to be able to come up with and cite a statistic that says the average, we do actually do the math to create that average. And
So all those numbers are actually in average?
that's correct, yeah.
Okay, Asher.
Yeah, just like going back to Margaret's original question about librarians, because that was a piece
hadn't been tuned into, but I think is something that would be important to all of us
You
report
bet.
because it's something important to families. Up to now, there have been very minimal changes at schools that are not part of the NES system, but this would seem to be a pretty significant one.
Yeah.
Their media specialists were also not mentioned in that packet, so like, can you give any additional details about that, and if so, why it's happening?
Yeah, I don't have any additional details right now because of, specific role creation, elimination, et cetera. We focusing on the salaries, the costing side of that. What I need to clarify is whether we have the role and it moved over into what we call the master pay table. There were some pay tables where people who sort of didn't have a home, one of the pieces we were cleaning up, one of the inefficiencies, we attached them to another salary schedule. So I want to be sure that that isn't getting camouflaged into the tables, and I just need to drill down on that and get that answer for you. And we'll try and get it as soon as possible right after this.
Okay.
Yeah,
I would say
thank
that
you.
would just be an important one, just because the
Absolutely.
embargo did lift on this at 4:30 p.m. and so now this information is public without a listing of librarians on it. So I think there would be a lot of people who would have those concerns.
Absolutely, completely agree. Yes, sir, we will get that to you just as quickly as possible. Yes, ma'am.
Will this have any bearing on stipends, overtime?
Yeah, so thank you. Great question. So stipends in particular were another area that we would have described as, unfortunately, an inefficiency with regard to Houston ISD. So hyperlinked in the compensation plan is the stipend list. We did a pretty intense scrubbing of that stipend list, eliminated a lot of what we considered was extraneous, meaning there are many professionals who just do a little extra in a day. That is kind of the exempt professional expectation. It's in our employee value proposition. And so we kind of call it colloquially, we're not going to nickel and dime for every time someone does something a little extra, a half hour, an hour, maybe a couple hours here or there. That's why you're not tracked on an hourly time clock when you're an exempt professional. And so our expectation is that professionals go above and beyond in a high performance culture. That is the model now at Houston ISD. There were some habits that were formed in the past about anytime someone did anything a little bit extra, they anticipated that a stipend would be created. There was a lot of latitude in a decentralized compensation structure where there was a lot of autonomy afforded to managers who could create and get approval for stipends. We went through that list and we basically pulled that all back in. So I sort of jokingly described our old compensation plan, which is currently on the webpage. It's over 130 pages. We've got this down to approximately 30 pages, much more user-friendly. But I described the old one as sort of a big whale out in the ocean who had a lot of barnacles that got attached to it over the years. And it was really important that we clean that up. It's responsible for taxpayers. And it's the responsible, appropriate thing for a professional employee to understand when they're in a high-performance culture.
In certain circumstances, will stipends still be allowed to some degree?
Absolutely. So what you'll see when you look at the stipends that, again, are hyperlinked in the compensation plan, all UIL stipends remain. I think if anyone's ever known a coach or had a coach personally, I know I had some fantastic ones, a lot of hours put into that extra work. And so we have competitive stipends for the UIL. It's not just coaching, it's also your fine arts. So a variety of areas. And, those are the same people who transport students on weekends and stay many hours after school for long practices and really expand the experience educationally for students. And so, yes, we did not in any way take away any of those stipends or reduce any of those stipends.
All right, go ahead, Megan.
I wanted to ask, I was looking at the differences between this year's NES salaries and next year's NES salaries, and it seems like only a couple are increasing, like maybe just kindergarten, first graders. I was curious about why the district is focusing on increasing salaries for non-NES versus NES.
I think when we did a review, we just wanted to be sure that salaries made sense in terms of internal equity. So sometimes you're looking at, does the salary make sense in relation to the other roles, either on that table or even cross-functionally across multiple tables. We also absorb recommendations from a lot of our managers. In addition, we look at some high needs positions, some hard to fill positions. And so we tried to kind of fiddle with a few salaries here and there. So that's why you probably see some of those micro adjustments. Most of them are all about equity, looking from a true compensation lens and making sure that's aligned. So each was kind of a deliberate, small decision. Yeah.
Go ahead, Margaret.
How are the teachers and other employees getting this information? Was it announced to them ahead of time, or is it today? How are they being told?
Yeah, so my understanding is that this went out to teachers this afternoon, and so they will be absorbing it. I believe we held till after school. We try all the time to not in any way disrupt the school day, even distraction, and so we just wanted them to have it available after school. I think there was a mass comms that went out from our communications department. We have an ability to email all of our teachers, all of our staff, not just our teachers, and so they received it electronically. We also cross-post it, and I think they'll do that once teachers and other staff have had time to receive the emails. If it's not posted already, we will continue to have this year's comp plan posted, because this year's compensation plan is in effect until June 30th, and then the new compensation plan goes into effect July 1st, 2024.
And did principals know about this beforehand? When did they find out?
So principals, similar to all of our staff, principals have been privy to some of the salary in relation to them through their division superintendents. Some have been discussed with them in terms of changes to, NES, non-NES principal salaries. They did not receive a copy of the compensation plan because we were really mindful. We wanted all staff, regardless of your role, to be receiving it all at the same time. We didn't want it to slow trickle for certain cohorts of employees.
Go ahead, Ashley.
And for the non-NES teachers, they're getting that $2,500 stepwise increase.
Yes.
That also comes as the school year is lengthening or the work calendar is lengthening. So if you match that out, it's roughly, for most teachers, it's about the same per day rate. How would you respond to teachers at non-NES schools who might have been looking for more there?
Yeah, and I appreciate the way you couched it. We were very cognizant that we are asking teachers to go from 187 work days a year to 194 work days. We communicated that previously. Again, we want working at Houston ISD to be a choice. We believe it's a great choice because we have so many attractive offerings in terms of salary and support. But in terms of asking someone to work that many more days, it was significant enough that we decided to increase the steps by 2,500 each step. I will clarify, between your 0 and your first year step, that actually needs to increase $2,750. So they get a little more there, and that was all about compression of steps. Anytime you change the tables, you have to be mindful of that. And so we haven't received any feedback. Now, they're digesting it now, so I assume if there is feedback for us to receive, we will hear about it soon as that news spreads. But our salaries are so competitive, even in the non-NES schools. When I look at data of why we have any teacher separating, in the short time that I've been here, and given these competitive salaries, compensation is not the reason that anyone is citing for departure.
Go ahead, Ms. Margaret, you have a follow-up?
On that, this year, Superintendent Miles said several times that he wasn't going to, teachers have contracts, but he wasn't going to hold them up over their contracts. If they wanted to leave, they could leave. is, is that going to be the policy for the next year? And,
Yeah.
does
Yeah.
that save the district money when they just leave?
No, what happens when a teacher leaves, and the whole premise behind it's called the 45-day penalty-free resignation date. And what that is 45 days before the first instructional day of the subsequent school year. By state statute, it states that a teacher cannot decide unilaterally to not fulfill their contract for the upcoming school year. So a teacher is held to that contract for the upcoming school year. It's a really positive, advantageous thing that we have in the state of Texas because it doesn't let kids down. Staffing can be challenging. You spend a lot of time and effort recruiting teachers and making sure they are in the right spot. Principals just spend endless hours making sure the teachers are well matched for the roles. Obviously, we spend a lot of time working through certification issues, et cetera. And so once that is done, you really don't want, as the school year gets closer and closer, for a teacher to say, oh, I changed my mind, and then we're scrambling to cover a classroom for a student. What happens if a teacher decides after that 45-day penalty-free resignation date, which I believe this year, when I counted backwards, is June 28th? For us this year, because we changed our school calendar and backed that start date up, our penalty-free resignation date, since it correlates to the first instructional day of the year, also backed up. It's usually about the 4th of July week, but this year it's June 28th. If a teacher decides to breach their contract, and it truly is the breach of an employment contract, to get kind of legal and technical about it, if they make that choice, then as Margaret was stating, they run the risk of being reported to TEA, to the SBEC, the State Board of Educator Certification, and usually what happens is they can, their certification is sanctioned for a year, maybe more, depending on the circumstances. Last year, that was very accurate. We decided not to go after those sanctions, not to do the reports. The ultimate sanction decision is owned by TEA. But we decided not to do that. We knew there were a lot of changes happening with teachers. Can't emphasize enough, we really want it to be a teacher's choice. And so we took no action. We are still trying to make a decision on what we want to do this year. So sorry to take so long to get to the punchline. We know it's an option, whether that's something that we do want to exercise, and it's a balancing act. We, of course, want to be making decisions that are best for kids, but we really want teachers who want to be here and want to be part of the historical transformation happening at Houston ISD. We really want teachers 100% bought in. So we'll continue revisiting that. Obviously, we have some time till June 28th.
All right, we're all good. Thank you, Chief Newman.
Absolutely. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks again for your interest.